What's up, everybody? Time for another game theory video. Man, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Today, as usual, it seems talking about why games are too homogenized. The idea of why you should not give every character the best move in the game, access to the best move in the game, right? So, rambly video as usual, stream of consciousness sort of video, but I want to do a thought experiment, okay? Can you tell me what is the best move in fighting games? Perhaps, what is the best move in a specific fighting game that you like or enjoy? Perhaps, what is the best thing in the game? Now, just me saying thing sort of almost in a way sort of inherently implies thing that it must be something that every character can do, to be honest, right? Can you answer this question? Can you think of any game where there is a homogenized, universal, let's say mechanic, whatever you want to call it, that is so powerful, so to speak, that is so inherently in the narrative of the ether of the game, when it is spoken about, that it is also not complained about, that it is not detrimental to the game, degenerate, that takes away the specialness of characters, right? Again, what I want to talk about today is, again, I know this is a long forward and I'm going to give examples. Talking about the homogenization of games, why it's bad for games, and why if you can actually answer that question that I just asked you, and the games that you can actually potentially answer that the question of this, or whatever, the best move of this game, or the thing in this game, it will actually show you that the game sucks, that the game is flawed, right? As you should not be able to answer the question that I just gave to you in this thought experiment, right? Okay. So, thinking about this, the homogenization of games, right? You should not give every character the best move, so to speak, right? So let's look at some games, right? Let's look at Street Fighter 6 for an example, since we've been talking about this. What is the main thing that you hear talked about in Street Fighter 6, right? What is the best move, main thing, whatever mechanic it could be, right? I would say Drive Rush, Slimer. Is that not the main thing you hear talked about in the game? It's also a very complained about thing, and it's also a homogenized thing. What a coincidence, right? Let's look at a game like Super Turbo. And I'm going to throw different examples of different games just so you can see what I'm talking about. A game like Super Turbo. What would you tell me is the best move or thing in Super Turbo? Can you even really answer this question? No, I'm serious. I would say perhaps, there might be some people like, well, I guess maybe Vega's wall dive, you might have some people say that's the best thing in the game. But even then, right, this is it's pretty sketchy, right? Because there's just so many good things in Super Turbo. Super Turbo is not a homogenized game. The answer isn't as easy, right? When you think about Super Turbo. Because not every character has access to the same tools, right? It's hard to answer this thought experiment question I asked you for a game like Super Turbo, because the game is not homogenized, right? Let's look at a weird example like CVS1. Capcom vs. SNK1. Let's just throw this game out there. And I say this because I've made the argument I cannot objectively tell you that Capcom vs. SNK 2 is a better game than CVS 1. The best argument for Capcom vs. SNK 2 being better than CVS 1 is that there's just more shit in it. Which, to a certain degree, that holds some weight. More shit is more shit, right? But can you actually really tell me CVS 2 is a objectively better game than CVS 1 besides that? Because guess what? What if we look at a game like CVS 1 compared to CVS 2? What is the best move in CVS 1? Can you answer that? It seems kind of hard. What's the best move or best thing in CVS 1? Just this move is this is the best thing in the game. I think you'd have a pretty hard time because guess what? CVS 1, is it just picking 4 ratio 1 characters? Geez, I don't know. Is it picking a Guile and Nakaru routine? I mean, these are characters. We're not actually talking about some sort of system mechanic here. Is the best. It's not the most talked about thing in the game, right? The most, degenerate thing in the game, right? The main narrative of the game when you speak about it, which again, that's why I was going to, when I talk about, I gave a big example when I was talking about, what is, something that you could say is the most powerful thing in the game is the most inherently talked about narrative of the game in the ether of it, so to speak, right? Street Fighter 6 automatically like, oh, Drive Rush. Everyone talks about Drive Rush. And it's a homogenized thing, right? CVS 1, I don't think you could get a clear consensus of what is the best thing in the game. What is inherently the best thing? I mean, God, there's a lot of powerful things. Guess what? I mean, maybe you want to pick a Guile or a Nakaru routine, but then guess what? 2 level 1 characters, right? So now you got 3 people. Man, I mean, they got, Jesus, is that the best thing in the game? Oh, well, you could say maybe Iori and SNK Groove. 8 wine glass super, if you pick that. In that specific instance, is that the best move in the game? Is Belrog with level 1 super in SNK Groove when he's almost dead? Is that the best move in the game? Well, you got Ryu in the Shin Shoryuken. Is that the best move in the game? Best thing in the game? CVS 1 is not a game where you can be like, oh, every character has the best thing in this game. Every character, this is the discussion we're going to have about the game. Because guess what? CVS 1, I don't think you could clearly say this is the main narrative of the game for any one thing. Because there's so many individualized, strong, different things in the game. Correct, right? Right. Now, a game like CVS 2, guess what? If you were to talk about CVS 2, I think if somebody held a gun to your head and they're like, what is the main narrative of CVS 2? What is the main thing that we talk about that is degenerate? Guess what? I think you would instantly think role canceling, probably more often than not. And guess what? That's a homogenized mechanic. That is something that every single character can do. Now, I know there is there is a minority of people who actually think that role canceling is amazing for the game, which is Persona 3 yourselves, right? You know what I mean? But I think that's a pretty reasonable thing that you would ask me like, well, yeah. There might be something like, oh God, Sakura or in Bison and A Groove is the best thing. But you know what? You would still think, I think if you think about the game as a whole, you're like, what is the main narrative of the game? Role canceling. And guess what? That's a homogenized mechanic. And the way that you use that, making yourself invincible, is the thing. Everyone uses it, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, the same way. Let's just go back to just what we said earlier. We've used we've used multiple different games now, right? Street Fighter 6. What is the main narrative of Street Fighter 6? Drive Rush Slammer. Everyone does it. Homogenized. I went to Super Turbo. What is the main thing that everyone talks about Super Turbo? Fuck. There's a lot of different things because there's a lot of different characters that are fucking special. There's a lot of different. Can you literally say, this is definitely the one thing you're going to talk about? And I've made many videos about why the narrative of a game is so important, right? Super Turbo. What is the narrative of Super Turbo? Can you go down to one thing? I don't think you can. We just use CVS1. What is the one thing that is always in the competitive ether? Just the one thing. Someone is holding a gun to your head. I think you'd have to think about it for CVS1. What is it? This is the best thing. You don't get a second chance. This is the main. You'd be like, geez, I don't know. 4 level 1 characters? I don't know. Nakaruru and Sagat? Oh, geez, I don't know if that's really the best thing. Well, Ryu Shincharuken is really fucking powerful in the game. Oh, God, but then SNK Groove with, level 1 supers. Oh, but I just said SNK Groove with level 1 supers. But then we have the outlier of Iori with 8 wine glass SNK super over and over again just to destroy you. Fuck. I think you would have a hard time answering that question. We go to CVS 2, though, guess what? I think you would say roll canceling. And it's a homogenized mechanic, right? Let's look at a game like, you knew I was going to say it. You knew I'm going to say it. Street Fighter Alpha 2. What is the main fucking thing that if you're going to be like, what is the main thing that we talk about Alpha 2? Custom combos. Easy. That was not even thought. Custom combos. Guess what? A homogenized mechanic. Is that not pretty incredible? Do you see what I'm starting to get at here? Giving every character the best move in the game. Every character has the same narrative, so to speak. And you know I'm right because Alpha 2. Well, you know I'm right for every fucking game because anyone who's ever tried to argue with me in games has failed miserably. I mean, I don't even give a fuck about Alpha 2. I just think it's such an easy game to pick apart because the people that love the game can't even have a intelligent conversation about the game. I mean, look at it when people have tried to argue me about Alpha 2. God, what was that one guy? Oh no, custom combos are so unique because, it's objectively unique because, you can coin flip with it here. I can use it as an anti-air here. I can go through your move with it here. I have really powerful. You're answering it. Yes, it encompasses all things. Yes, I know it's the best fucking thing in the game. Everyone has access to the best thing in the game. It is fucking degenerate. It is detrimental to the game. Alpha 2 is such a terribly goddamn designed game. Okay? Alpha 2. Isn't it? Did you see what I'm getting here? Let's go to game. We'll use Alpha. We'll use Alpha 1. What is the best thing in Alpha 1? What is the best move? Guess what? I think you would actually have a hard time answering that question. You're like, God, well, Akuma's air fireball is really degenerate in the game. But then you're like, God, there's so many dizzy combos in the game. Is this character really the best? I think you would have a hard, Ken's roll trap. Actually, I'm saying that Ken's roll trap is pretty bullshit. Now that I think about it, you know what I mean? But there you go. You know what I mean? You're like, that's pretty broken. Maybe auto mode is kind of stupid at times. Guess what? I'm having a hard time thinking about it. It's not as clear cut, right? So, and what I'm getting at is for a lot of these games, even if you are trying to, again, let's go to Super Turbo for a second. Even if we're trying to think of what is the best thing in this game, what is the best move in this game, to be a devil's advocate for a second. Even if, let's say, we got a consensus that Vega's wall dive is the best thing in the game. Sagat's fireball, whatever. Excuse me. Well, there you go. You could also say, guess what? You could say fucking stored fucking T-Hawk throw or DP negative edge because technically you automatically win, right? I mean, technically you could say some bullshit like that, but even if we're going for some of these older games or something like that, guess what? That are not homogenized. just inherently right there, we're saying it's specific for this character. So we're saying it's not homogenized. It feels special. We're actually thinking about specific character special stuff that makes them good, right? When we're thinking about a lot of these older games, a game like Super Turbo that is still fucking, again, it's incredible that I can watch Super Turbo and you still see every character played. It doesn't even matter if the character's bad. The meta has evolved so long in Super Turbo, and guess what? You still see every fucking character played. Even in an old fucking game like Super Turbo. Right? Every character feels special. It's just not homogenized. It stands the test of time. Right? So again, what I'm getting at is, can you actually think of a game where there is even a homogenized universal mechanic, whatever you want to call it, that is so powerful, so to speak, that is so inherently in the narrative of the ether, in the ether of the game, that is so important, whatever, in the ether of the game. I said the same thing multiple times. I'm blabbering, rambling, as usual, right? Something that's talked about like that, but it isn't complained about, because we love it. That it's not detrimental to the game whatsoever. That it's not degenerate. That it doesn't actually take away the specialness of different of characters, Can you answer? I don't think you can. Right? I mean, even when I was, thinking about this in my head, trying to answer the question myself, can I answer this? And I guess if I were to think about it, I could say something like homing dash, perhaps, in Dragon Ball FighterZ, whatever. That is certainly something that is perhaps one of the most, if not the most, talked about mechanic that is also universal in the game. That could be perhaps the most talked about thing in the game, and it's universal and homogenized, so to speak. And some people would say it's degenerate. But I think for a game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, that's a very easy game to argue that, because homing dash is kind of your mix-up in the game too, so to speak, right? Because the game is so foundationally sort of jank, you can't just instant air dash or cancel moves without sparking. So, I mean, you could argue for why sparking, you could actually argue for why homing dash is actually good for Dragon Ball FighterZ pretty reasonably, I think. So even that argument, if I'm trying to argue against myself and counter argument, you know what I mean? How would I argue myself, right? How would I argue the smartest person in the history of fighting games? I love fucking with you guys. It's sad because it's fucking true, dude. Oh God, I crossed the bear. Fuck me. But even that, I'm like, oh God, I don't know. But it's such an inherent mechanic. But that would be what I would think about if I was trying to argue this point. But I think there's good things about homing dash too. But I think that would be the one game if I was trying to answer this question. But otherwise, I can't even tell you. I can't really think, right? Again, it just, in the CVS one, I think the CVS one example is really good, because I said before, I cannot fucking tell you, objectively speaking, that I actually think CVS 2 is a better game than CVS 1. I instantly just think, oh God, it has more. More is better, right? But when you think about the game, there's actually something. The main thing that you talk about the game, if someone holds a gun to your head and you're like, tell me about CVS 2, something that I need to know that is the best thing in the game, the most powerful thing in the game. I think you'd be like, someone puts a gun to your head, you'd be like, I'm going to say roll canceling. Roll canceling. And it's a homogenized mechanic that degenerates the game because it gives everyone the same property of their moves, basically. Oh, we're invincible. Oh, whoop-de-doo, homogenized. But you look at a game like CVS 1, someone's putting a gun to your head. What's the most important thing about this game? What's the best thing in this game? Answer me right now. What's the best mechanic in this game? I think you'd be like, whoa. Give me a couple shots. I got to think about this, right? Give me a couple shots. I can't. Geez, like, whoa. Give me a minute here, right? Don't pull the trigger yet. Time out. This is Persona 4, but let's not play Persona 3 for a second. I gotta think. Game like Alpha 2, though. Oh, yeah, it's like, oh, custom combos, of course. Of course. It's a homogenized mechanic. Isn't that amazing? Alpha 1, what's the best thing in the game? You're like, oh, God. I'm going to need a minute. I don't know if I can actually answer that. Right? Super Turbo. What's the best thing in the game? You're like, ooh, give me a minute. Give me a minute. Ooh. And the thing is, though, even if you can theoretically, let's say, answer these things in some of these older games, guess what? It will be a character-specific thing, right? And it's not homogenized. And these games where I'm saying this are inherently better designed than the game I am comparing it to. Is that not true? Again, I don't think you can argue me that CVS 2 is some way better game than CVS 1. We know for we know for real, we know. You sure as fuck can't argue me that Alpha 2 is some inherently better made game than Alpha 1. I think it's cooler. I do think Alpha 2 is a cooler game by a big margin. But Alpha 2 it's fucking retarded. Right? Street Fighter 6. Oh, you gonna tell me? Are you serious? Compared to a game like Super Turbo? All this kind of shit, right? So anyway, that's my thought experiment for the game, right? These games where you can't actually just answer this question, lickety split, why are they better? Isn't that interesting? If I can't answer this question, doesn't it almost automatically mean the game is better? Remember, if you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share, support the channel if you want. Appreciate it. Thanks. Super chat, PayPal, super like, whatever. I put Ryu here just because, we're talking shit about the art in Street Fighter 6 recently. Back when Ryu was a sexy boy. Look at that. I like a little of the bangs in Ryu's hair. I like little bangs when Ryu looks he actually could get some pussy if he wanted to. I'll never understand why does, I guess Ryu in Alpha 1, he looks like he could probably get laid, but you see like Street Fighter 4, Ryu looks like a monkey. Why the fuck does Sakura want to fight like fuck a monkey? Ryu looks like a monkey. He looks retarded. Street Fighter 6 Ryu, I don't even know. What are they thinking about Street Fighter 6 Ryu? He's just ridiculous. But Street Fighter 2 Ryu, like, look, he's got kind of like a sexy look. You could see if Ryu wasn't concerned about beating people up, he could probably get his dick sucked. Right? This is a hero, a scholar. Not Monkey Ryu. Monkey Ryu is retarded. The end.